Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. I have received hundreds and hundreds of questions about the coronavirus, the COVID-19 plague, which has spread across the world. And everybody's wondering, hey, are you okay? Actually, at first everybody's like, are you okay? I'm so worried about you over there in China. And now it's spread to the rest of the world and people are very aware. I mean, I said... Oh man, over a month ago I made a video about this. And at the end of the video I said, look, right now, there are as many cases of this virus in the United States as there were in Wuhan just a couple weeks ago. And everybody has this feeling like, no, that's somebody else's problem. That's something from over there on the other side of the world, not here in my hometown, not where I live. Look, man. Cities are a problem. Big cities are a problem. Major metropolitan areas are a problem. There are a lot of arguments going on the internet between various factions. For example, vegans and non-vegans going at it like, you shouldn't eat meat. Yes, you should. You shouldn't eat meat. Yes, you should. Meat is murder. Murder, okay, maybe it got us there, but we like meat. It's good, right? So... what's the real underlying problem there? You got massive numbers of people occupying small plots of land stacked on top of each other. China is a very special case because you see this to tremendous effect. In the United States, there are a few big cities. There's New York, there's Los Angeles, there's Chicago, there's Boston. You know, a few major metropolitan areas with millions of people. In China, that's not the exception, that's the norm. Every city has millions of people over here, man. Every last one of them, man. Shanghai has the world's... it's the largest city in China. China, the country with the largest population. I live in the largest city in the largest populated country, man. It's overwhelming to think about the numbers of people here. And man, it is astonishing, absolutely astonishing to me how the Chinese local, municipal, and what's the word I'm looking for? How the governments of this country have handled this situation. You know, a lot of people yell at the Chinese government, shame on you for this and that and the other, but you know what they did really, really well is handle this quarantine, man. It is shocking, shocking how they were able to do that with the volumes of people here. Man, you don't know until you've seen it. You just don't know. So for the last 3 months, it's been quarantine in Shanghai. It's everybody staying home. Shanghai has been closed for business for like 3 months. The gyms have been closed, right? All public meeting places have been closed. Schools, churches, I already mentioned gyms, restaurants, everything where people get together in groups and numbers closed for like 3 months. And slowly, some of these businesses are now starting to reopen. For example, my gym is starting to reopen conditionally this week, but only for private lessons scheduled ahead of time and approved, and everybody has to go through health checks and all this stuff. So many health checks, man. Just getting in and out of my apartment complex, you got to have health checks, right? Got to have, everybody takes your temperature. You walk in the grocery store, they take your temperature. You walk in any place where there are other humans, they take your temperature. They check everything. All right, you got to sign in, you got to sign out if you're going into anywhere where there are people. They want to keep tabs on people. And that might sound terrible and authoritarian. It's like 1984. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to disagree with you there, but guess what? It's keeping people alive. So a lot of folks over in the U.S. are freaking out right now because the numbers over there in the U.S. are similar to what they were here in China some time ago when everybody was freaking out over here. And I don't want to be a prophet of doom and gloom over here. Because I'm optimistic about the future. I don't know exactly what the future holds, but I'm optimistic about it. Somebody asked me in this comment, like, Ramsey, how do you seem so calm and happy in spite of the fact that you're so close to ground zero of this pandemic? I'm not afraid of dying, man. You may have heard that quote, "The code of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death." Miyamoto Musashi spoke of the fact that everybody at some level, at an intellectual, cerebral level, knows they are going to die. They understand their mortality. They know one day in the future, I will not be alive anymore. Peasants know this. Kings know this. Noble women know this. Priests, servants, everybody knows it. We know it up here, right? But the warrior knows it in here. And that's a very, very important distinction. They don't just understand it as a conceptual possibility, they know it as an inevitability. And they have become intimately acquainted with that. Whenever people tell me, Ramsey, I'm scared of fighting, I'm scared of getting in the ring every time I get in the cage, man, the nerves go through me. What should I do to calm down? Accept the fact that you are going to die. Not necessarily in that cage fight. And if you're scared of viruses or whatever, accept the fact that you're going to die. Not necessarily of the virus. It might happen 100 years from now, peacefully in your sleep or something like that. Who knows? Who cares? But you're gonna die. Make peace with that. Make friends with death, man. My 7-year-old daughter, last night, told me she had a hard time sleeping. She said, Daddy, how do I go to sleep tonight? I said, well, just close your eyes, think happy thoughts. She said, I can't think happy thoughts right now. I don't want to die. I said, why are you thinking about this? And she says, I don't want to die of the coronavirus. And I look at her and I start thinking, this is weighing on her very heavily. I suppose when you've lived for a certain number of decades, and you've experienced a certain amount of life and all the things life has to offer and throw at you, it's easy to rationalize, okay, I could be done now. If tomorrow was my last day, maybe that wouldn't be ideal, but, I could live with that. Figuratively speaking, because I'd be dead. But a small child asking you that question, how do I sleep because I'm scared of inevitable death? That got me right in the feels, man. And made me realize that no matter how comfortable we get with death, there's something to live for. Beyond ourselves. And beyond our personal comforts. And rationalizations of how okay or not it may be to kick the bucket. What's probably going to happen? As far as I can tell, this virus is going to spread and spread and spread, and that probably sounds like a portent of doom. Nah, man, nah. Like all viruses, this is what happens. They spread and they spread and they spread, and people get infected, and some people die and some people don't, and those that don't develop immunities to it, and life goes on. A lot of people like presenting these end-of-the-world scenarios. The end of the age of man. World, from the Old English, ver, meaning man. Alt, meaning old, or age. Literally, the age of man. That's what world means. Not our planet Earth, but the age, the history of human beings, as far as we remember it. That's our world. So the end of your world is not necessarily the same as the end of my world. People who live in their own little worlds. It's a real thing. We all do. So it's going to spread. It's going to go on. It's been going on like 3 months here in China, and the doors are slowly starting to open again. So what can you expect over there in the US and Italy and these other countries where the virus is starting to hit hard and people are starting to get scared? Getting scared, in my experience, doesn't really help. But I'm not going to tell you don't be afraid, because fear is there for a reason. It's there to teach us something. To teach us important lessons. It's there to keep us alive. But as human beings, we have the ability to think rationally, to use our minds and our brains and our God-given talents to rise above reactionary actions and to do something better. And to think, is this action that the fear is telling me to do what I actually should do? If you have the time to stop and think about it, it's not an imminent danger. As opposed to, say, a lion chasing you. I was just watching a documentary about lions with my kids. If there is a lion chasing you across the wilderness and you feel your adrenaline spike and your fear tells you to run away from that lion, yeah, that's an imminent danger. If you don't get away, you're going to be eaten by a wild, savage mammal with claws and teeth. But if you have the time to stop and think deeply, day after day, you have time to do something constructive with your fear, as opposed to simply reacting to it. Fear is not the same as panic, man. Panic it's never constructive, especially in large groups in big cities. When you have a big city with millions, with a bazillion people out there, and they all move to the left at the wrong time, people die. It's a problem, man. Panic is a problem. But if you have a large group of fear, a large group of people with a rational fear, and they have time to think it through and come to a consensus, and they move in the right direction, even one step, the whole world changes for the better. So I remain optimistic, because in the short term, we're going to see some panicked individuals. We're going to see some stupid decisions. But overall, the greater good is at the end of this tunnel, I believe. How do I remain so calm? Man, I don't know, maybe I'm just a sociopath, man. Maybe I'm just one of those guys who just doesn't succumb to, those rampant emotions, those wild elations, panic. My wife has a friend, and she needs people. And being isolated, she lives alone, has a couple of cats. And she needs people, needs to be around other people, needs human connection. And so this This quarantine for the last 3 months has been driving her crazy. And so from time to time she'll call my wife and say, hey, can I come over? I just need to be around other humans right now. And it's tough for her. Meanwhile, I'm over here thinking about that movie, Castaway, with Tom Hanks, who I heard contracted the coronavirus, which is interesting. Get into that in just a moment, but watching that movie about Castaway, he's stuck on an island by himself, and we're supposed to feel like, oh, boo-hoo, he's all by himself, and I'm thinking like, that looks pretty cool. I want to do that. Why not me? That seems neat. I love being alone sometimes. Absolutely love it, man. Not all the time, obviously, because we are social beings. We need other people. Some of us need other people more than others. But yeah, Tom Hanks, interesting case right there. So I heard, and I've heard a lot of things which may or may not be true, but I heard Tom Hanks and his wife, famous actor Tom Hanks and his wife, contracted the COVID-19 virus. That's a bit redundant since COVID stands for coronavirus 2019. Anyway, they got the virus. They're sick. And a lot of people were shocked and sad because that meant it's real. That meant, oh no, if this famous person, this guy from TV, this guy from the movies can get it, this guy who is rich, who can afford good health care, he can get it. Oh man, what does that say about me? Oh, we're all screwed now. A lot of people started panicking. And I looked on the positive. You know what? This guy who has means, he has money, he can afford the best health care. Okay, good, because that means that some specialists are going to start looking at this, who probably would not have looked at it that way before, and they're going to try to solve a problem that they probably would not have tried to solve before, and they may find solutions that they perhaps would not have found before. So, let's hope he recovers, and let's hope that we learn something from this experience that can benefit the rest of the world. Love that movie, though. So what's the situation over here in China? Again, the doors are starting to open, little by little. People are going outside more. People are still wearing masks, because it is required by law when you go outside in public places, anywhere, that you wear a mask. The mask is not to prevent the virus from getting in your face. It is to prevent you from breathing, coughing, sneezing, and otherwise exhaling on other people. So please don't have any unrealistic expectations about those masks. They are what they are. It is for the benefit of other people. It's an interesting time. Everybody that I follow on social media is putting up these at-home workouts, at-home coronavirus quarantine workouts. Be prepared to do a lot of those, guys. Be prepared to stay this out for the next 3 months, at least. Potentially 6. So how long will a pandemic last before it runs its course throughout the human population? Probably at least 6 months, I'm guessing. I mean, it's been 3, and yeah. What is this going to do to the world's economy? Man, I hope it does something positive. I hope it gets the powers that be reevaluating what we value and how our whole money system works, man. I hope it does. I hope it turns the world on its head, shakes things up, man. Gets people thinking in better directions. Wouldn't that be interesting? If this resulted in a world where we didn't have to virtually beg. I have a friend, a former student, found out some time ago he was HIV positive. He's a gay man. He's he's been living with his life partner for some time, and he found out his life partner has cancer, brain cancer, and because of this viral outbreak, he is no longer able to go to work, no longer able to afford the health care for this man that he loves and has dedicated his life to. And man, that's it is just all kinds of sad upon layers of sad, man. My heart goes out to him, man. And he's resorted to the kindness of strangers, saying, "Help, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I can't make it on my own." And this is not an isolated instance. This is, so many people out there are realizing, I can't make it on my own. Money gives us a lot of delusions and illusions. It's this illusion of power. It's this illusion of prosperity. It's this illusion that we mean something, that we're special, that we're better than others, and then you take away what that can buy. You lock everybody up at home and say, no, you can't go out. You can't. In many cases, you can't buy food because the stores are closed. You can't buy toilet paper because everybody in America is freaking out about that, man. I remember Johnny Carson, back in the day, I believe it was on the Late Show, he made a joke about a toilet paper shortage in America. There wasn't one, however, about 2 days later there was, because a few too many people took that joke seriously and bought up all the toilet paper. Suddenly, prophecy fulfilled, toilet paper shortage. There is no toilet paper shortage in China, man. And my friends in Argentina, you guys have the right idea. The bidet, man, that thing is brilliant. No need for toilet paper at all. Aguante Argentina. I've had a lot of people ask me for advice. Ramsey, what should I do? What should I do to prepare? What should I do to prepare for this oncoming incident, man? I'm scared. What should I do to prepare? Preparing is something you do beforehand. Not during, not after. A lot of people have been making jokes about preppers, people who have food storage, people who store medicines, who buy extra of the things that they might need. Heard that story about the grasshopper and the ants? The ants, all summer long, they store their food, they work, they toil. The grasshopper plays his fiddle, plays all day. And then winter comes and the ants have everything they need, and the grasshopper is cold and hungry and starving and freezing outside. He's like, help, help, and then he dies. Except in the Disney version, I think the ants invited him in. But in the original, no, he died because he didn't prepare. In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sometimes pejoratively called the Mormons, because of the book of Scripture, the Book of Mormon. The prophets of this church have constantly admonished the constituents to prepare. Year after year, sermons over the pulpit telling us, prepare, have a food storage ready. And some of us have this idea like, oh, well, that's obviously for the apocalypse. That's for the end times. No, man, that's for every time. Every time. I grew up poor by American standards. Grew up in a single-parent household, just my mom and 7 kids. Some cats and some dogs, man. Don't know how we afforded those. Well, they fed themselves outside on mice and gophers and things like that. Anyway. And my mom, in spite of having next to nothing, found a way to set something aside. And so we would glean fields and glean orchards, and we would take that extra produce that we gleaned, and we would can it in canning jars and store it in the back. Every time she emptied a bottle, like a bleach bottle or something like that, she'd wash it out and then fill it with water, and then we would put it in the crawl space under our house. And by the time I was a teenager, we had hundreds and hundreds of gallons of stored clean water under the house. We had this massive pantry of canned foods in jars. And times came. Not an apocalypse, not a pandemic, just times where we didn't have anything to eat except what we had stored. You know, like those busy ants from the story. And I remember thinking, yeah, we're like the ants, not like the grasshopper. And so we had food, and we didn't starve, we didn't go hungry, we didn't have to go out and beg. What a blessing that was, man. What a blessing that was. And a lot of people wag their fingers and think, ha, Mormons are silly, because they believe that you can have a conversation with God. Well, if you don't believe that, you probably don't believe in God. And if you don't believe in God, anything pertaining to God might seem silly. But you cannot deny the wisdom in these prophets, one after the other, who have told the constituents, not just of the church, but of the world, hey, guys, put something aside. Save up. Prepare for when times get bad. Because they inevitably will. And again, they're not just talking about a worldwide pandemic like right now. And a lot of people are struggling. Some people can't make it to a store or to a hospital or apparently to a toilet anymore in the U.S. And those who have saved and stored up and prepared and prepped in advance, guess what? You have an additional blessing at your disposal. And you know what that is? That is the ability to stretch out your hand and help those in need. And again, those wagging their heads who haven't tuned out, who still think religion is silly. Okay, I understand why you might think that. But let me define religion as the Apostle James did in the Bible, a man who walked and talked with Jesus Christ. Pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to help, to look after the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. Notice he didn't say pure religion is saying the right words and reading the right scriptures and bowing the right number of times. It's getting out there and helping. It's doing something. Which at this point may seem like a practical impossibility in a quarantine where you don't actually have the option to go out there and physically intervene in the lives of others in ways that you may have been able to before. But there are people out there who are lonely, like my wife's friend, who lives with her cats, and needs other people to survive. You probably know somebody like that. You might not realize it, but you probably know somebody like that. Stretch out a hand, extend a word, write an email, whatever, depending on what your situation is. At the age of 21, I ended up dying in a hospital, and I faced the serious prospect of death for, was it the first time in my life? The first extended time in my life, lying in that hospital bed, feeling at death's door, thinking, I feel like I can just let go and die. And one thing that kept me there was from time to time, my sister-in-law at the time, a woman named Kate, she would come into the hospital and she would read books to me. I had a very hard time sleeping. I had a very hard time staying awake. Everything was just pain, constant pain and struggle. And even though I love being alone, and I enjoy that, there is a limit, there is a threshold to how much loneliness one can endure. And hearing that voice, hearing that somebody else cared enough to share their time, which ultimately is all we have in this world, was incredibly meaningful. And I remember one night I was feeling particularly despondent, lying in this hospital bed for 3 months. After 3 surgeries, returned to the hospital 3 times, feeling like, man, this is my life from now on. I'm dying. This is terrible. And I felt the spirit just climbing out of my body, clawing its way out, like, I'm done. Let me out of here. I'm free. And I got a call from my mother and my younger brother. And I remember wanting to hear their voices, which in times of plenty, in times of prosperity, did not seem so incredibly important as they did right then. And when I spoke to my little brother, who was very shy, for some reason I just felt like, man, I need somebody to sing to me. I need to hear somebody sing to me. And I don't know why or how, but I asked my brother, hey Mark, can you sing me a song? Sing to me. And my brother was like, what the heck? I was like, come on, man, I'm dying. Just grant me my dying wish and sing to me. My little brother, I could just hear him tensing up over the phone, like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but okay, fine, my brother's dying, so I'll do this. And so my brother sings. My little brother, who didn't sing, sung to me. And it touched my soul in such a unique way. I was like, that spirit inside of me that's clawing, like, get me out of here, this sucks, was like, wait a minute. Okay, we can stick around. It's weird how something as little as that, as little as a bit of time and attention, can save a life, or at the very least feel like it in the most real and tangible way. So what can you do? You can do what you can do, and you should never do less. I am optimistic for the future, my friends. Many of you are turning to me, asking me these questions, because in a lot of ways I've been there and done that. I've been here in China since, this thing came out. And I'm starting to see the other end of the tunnel. And it's bright. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train at home if that's where you can, or elsewhere if that's where you can.